Week 2 of the fantasy football season is here. We've got some starts and sits for you. We got a couple game previews as well to help you make the right decisions to lead to victory. All that is coming up next.
It's about that time.
Stone on Sports.
How's it going, everybody? You are tuned in to Stoned on Sports Fantasy Football. My name is Matt. Got the awesome co-host Kyle here today, and that's right. Week 2 is going to be underway here in just about 15, 20 minutes. And in case you haven't seen, Javonte Chan is active. He's going to be out there. Fire him up. Run his ass out there. Kyle, how the hell are you?
Yep. Still excited to see what Jalen Wright can offer tonight. We should see him out there a little bit. So excited to see what he could do. I'm doing great. It's week 2. I love it. It's fantasy football. Fantasy baseball's almost over. Thank God.
How do you really feel?
Well, I mean, I'm out of the playoffs now, so I'm just kind of like full fantasy football mode.
It's got to suck. I wouldn't know what that's like.
Yeah, whatever. All right. We're going to go through, talk about a few starts, talk about a few sits. I'll start it off with, not that guy. Almost said you Darvish. That wouldn't have worked out very well. Brian Robinson Jr., not a wide receiver with the Washington Commanders. I'm not sure why I put wide receiver. He's a running back, but maybe Matt can fix it while I'm talking. The reason for it is they're at home and they're going against the New York Giants. Their defense looked like ass. I would start him, due to usage and his prowess in the receiving game. Last week, he scored almost 18 PPR points in week 1 at Tampa Bay. He only had 12 carries for 40 yards, but he scored a touchdown, which is huge, and caught 3 passes for 49 yards on 4 targets. Eckler, he only had 2 carries, saw 4 targets. He did have 52 receiving yards, which was more than Robinson in the game, but he's going to continue to share touches with Eckler, but it was great to see Brian Robinson get as many targets as Eckler. I was actually shocked on that one. Last week, the Giants allowed Aaron Jones, and Ty Chandler to combine for 111 rushing yards and a touchdown. They also caught 5 balls for 40 yards on 5 targets in week 1. Robinson has had more than 100 total yards in 3 out of 4 career meetings with the Giants. And last year, week 11 at home, he scored over 20 PPR points against them, 17 carries, 73 yards, 7 catches for 59 yards. And, last year, even though Eckler came there, Brian Robinson proved capable as the lead back last year. Among 33 running backs with at least 175 carries, he ranked 16th in yards per carry, 22nd in EPA per rush, 9th in yards after contact per attempt, which is nice, and 21st in success rate. And he really surprised as a pass catcher. Caught 36 of 40 last year, averaged 10.2 yards a catch, and had a monstrous, huge 11.4 yards after the catch per reception. I think, touchdowns are kind of going to be tough to come by, I think, with Robinson, unless they are in the receiving game, because I think Jaden Daniels is going to, steal some goal line rushing opportunities there this season. But I think it's encouraging, though, that he got the usage that he did in this home game against the Giants. If he can find the end zone, you're golden, right? Love it.
So we got Dubo here in the chat with a question.
Sweet. Oops, sorry.
Would you stop?
Nope.
All right. Robinson, Etienne, or Jordan Mason this week in a full PPR. What do you think?
Mason looked good. It's hard. It's always nice to ride the hot hand. I think they're going to run a bunch there. I think they'll have to again. Etienne just didn't look good. Worried about that share in the backfield there with Bigsby. I guess I'd probably go with Robinson, then Mason, then Etienne.
I can dig that.
With full PPR, maybe. Yeah, maybe
he was practicing. We'll see what happens. I like Robinson. I'm not going to get too caught up with what Etienne did last week and his, we'll call it, lack of success. Jordan Mason looks so damn good, though. And I thought he's looked good in his very limited playing time over the past, season and a half, whatever it may be. Yeah, I'll agree with you there. And then we got Julio in the chat. Brian Robinson or Waddle in a non-PPR. How you doing, Julio? Appreciate you joining us. And this is for a family league, but I was going to reply in the chat, but I'll just spit it out here verbally. Look, winning money is nice, but being able to trash talk your family for a year is priceless.
It is. It is good stuff. Non-PPR. It's rough. I kind of like Waddle tonight. Maybe even better than Tyreek Hill. But that secondary there for Buffalo is not very good, and they've aged a bunch. And I'd go with Waddle.
All right, I'm going to go with Brian Robinson in non-PPR. I usually skew towards running backs just because they're going to get so much more opportunity.
This is true,
and this is a fantastic matchup. That Giants defense is no bueno.
Yeah. I watched the Hard Knocks off season there with the Giants, and I really thought they could have done better. Like, they wanted Devin Singletary. I just can't imagine wanting Devin Singletary.
Well, Dable had history with him in Buffalo.
That's true. That is true. So another receiver for you. Why don't you talk about J-Mo? He had his big breakout game last week versus whoever we played, the Rams, and I think he's going to have another huge breakout this week.
How many breakouts are you going to give this guy?
Every week.
So they got the Bucs this week. Tampa Bay has injuries all over their secondary, right? And J-Mo, he had his first 100-yard game. He had a career-high 9 targets, and he had a career-high snap share that was over 70%. And we've heard all through the offseason and into training camp just how good he was looking. And it's really nice to see all that offseason chatter translate to success on the field. And we were chatting a little bit on Tuesday, but I really just want to reiterate this point that he brings an element to that Lions offense that has kind of been lacking over the past couple seasons, and that is just blazing top-end speed. He's somebody that can take a top off the defense and relieve some of the pressure in the middle of the field and open things up for Sun God and Laporta. And the team really needed a second option at wide receiver with Josh Reynolds taking his talents over to Denver. For the second week in a row, the Lions are in the game with the highest total on it. I think there's going to be plenty of points scored in this game. That Lions secondary is improved, but it's still not great. You know, there's a lot of young, inexperienced players back there, and say what you will about Baker Mayfield and how you may feel about him. Mike Williams and Chris Godwin are the truth. They are both fantastic receivers that know how to get open. J-Mo has been limited in practice. It's something to keep in mind, but I just cannot envision him missing the game. I'm very certain he's going to be out there. If you got him, I'm going to run him out there. Anytime you have a game with a high total like that, you always want to try and get a piece of it. And J-Mo is a fantastic piece. I'm not going to say he's going to go for 100 and a touchdown again, but I don't see any reason why he won't be just as involved this week as he was last week. Now, understand, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Laporta didn't do shit last week.
No.
And I don't see that happening again. You know, at the same time, Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson are smart enough to understand how the injuries in the secondary for Tampa are really going to affect their defense. And yes, Detroit is a run-first team, but they are a very capable team through the air as well. And J-Mo is going to be a big part of that, not only this week, but going forward.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he was number 1 in YAC per reception last week with 13 yards. That's pretty good. And he was number 2 in yards per route run over 4, which is just damn excellent. And even with them all injured, and they're going to have some third string cornerbacks out there for Tampa Bay, they never even got tested last week against Jaden Daniels. His ADOT was 5.5 yards. So, which was like 30th out of the 32 starters last week. So, dude, Jamo versus a third stringer for Goff in this offense, we're going to exploit the hell out of that.
Yes, they are. We got Casual Connor here in the chat. Start Jeff Wilson, Chase Brown, or Zach Charbonnet in a PPR. And that's kind of a toughie because, you got to make a decision here in the next 5 minutes if you want to go with Jeff Wilson.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get the lion's share of the work in the backfield tonight, but at the same time, Achan's going to be there, and Jalen Wright is going to be making his debut, so we could be looking at a three-headed monster. Chase Brown, Bengals are going to get throttled by the Chiefs.
Yep,
I think so. Anyways, but that game script could be good for him. And then Charbonnet, we don't even really know what the hell is going on with Ken Walker, and Connor follows up. He knows they're all bad. I'm not necessarily going to say they're bad, but these aren't top tier options. Since it's a PPR right now, I want to lean Chase Brown, but if Ken Walker is out, it's Charbonnet.
Well, Chase Brown just got almost no usage last week. It was really a lot of Zach Moss, and I worry about that. It sucks that, we don't know Ken Walker's situation fully. It sucks that this game's in a few minutes, but man, that is tough.
It is. I'm going to say, for now, plug in either Charbonnet or Chase Brown. Ken Walker's been DNP the past couple days, and if he doesn't practice tomorrow, chances are he's not going to play. But that's still a relatively tough matchup against that New England defense that looked a hell of a lot better than I think anybody was expecting. I don't know. I have a hard time starting Jeff Wilson. I really do.
Me too. Plus, he's a special teams guy too, so he'll see some play there. Yeah, I'm leaning your way. I'm more Charbonnet right now. That's where I'm at. Charbonnet.
Yeah, I can endorse that. Hope that helps, Connor.
Next up, we got Michael Pittman, another wide receiver. He may have only caught 4 balls for just over 30 yards, but he still had 8 targets from AR in week 1. Of course, AR only threw the ball 19 times. So there's some optimism here in week 2. The target share for Pittman last week was over 42%. That was number 1 in week 1. If Pittman continues to see 30% or more, you got to keep rolling him out there every week, regardless. And at some point, some of those deep shots that AR looks like he's pretty good at doing to Alec Pierce and that other guy, Ashton, something I can't remember, is Doolin, I think. I think that'll help open up things more for Pittman underneath. These defenses are going to have to start respecting the deep talents of Anthony Richardson. And AJ Brown just lit up the Packers last week. He had almost 23 PPR points, 10 targets, a touchdown grab, and 119 yards. So I think Pittman's in line for some similar production, looking to bounce back this week in Green Bay.
All right, we got a question from Ray out here. He's torn between Waddle or Ayuk in a standard. I'm reading that as a standard league, 6 points per touchdown, where the touchdowns matter the most. So, Kyle, out of Jalen Waddle and Brandon Ayuk, who do you think is more likely to find the end zone?
I like Waddle. A lot more weapons in San Francisco. Ayuk was on a snap count. They expect that to happen again this week. In Minnesota. I'll take Waddle tonight.
I'll agree with you there.
Swiss cheese secondary, and they're in Buffalo.
Yeah, I'll go Waddle as well.
Glad to have you back, Ray. I haven't seen you here in a while. Appreciate you hopping in. Any questions you guys got, we will answer. Heck yeah. What do we got now? Pittman. How you feel about him this week? You like him?
He had that massive target share last week, right? It was like 42% or whatever the heck it was. Playing against Green Bay, who is going to be without Jordan Love. And I know that LaFleur come out and said, the door's open for him to play, but, I don't give 2 shits about that. He's not going to play. So you got Malik Willis, who is better at feeding homeless people than he is at playing quarterback in the NFL. I don't necessarily know that. Well, there's two things. Number one, I don't think Indy is going to have to pass a whole hell of a lot this week.
True.
To stay in the game. And number two, even though he got all those targets, we need to think about the quality of those targets. I mean, if you're throwing to Michael Pittman, but you throw it over his head, you throw it at his feet, it's a couple of yards in front of him or behind him. Yeah, it's a target, but there ain't shit he can do with it. And it's not like Michael Pittman is a small dude. You know, he's a big guy. He's a big ass target. But at this point in his career, Anthony Richardson is a very limited quarterback. He has some developing to do. At the same time, we said it on Tuesday. We're going to continue to say it all season long. Football fantasy football is a game about volume. And if Michael Pittman is going to continue to get that kind of volume, I mean, I'm going to take it. It's not like you're going to bench his ass anyway. You know, you spent a third round pick on him or whatever his ADP was. I don't remember right offhand, but he is an integral part of that passing offense there in Indy.
Yeah.
Loud Boy is asking, should he start Brian Thomas?
He fell in the end zone too. He had 4 targets, caught all 4 of them. You know, he was on the field over 3/4 of the time for the snaps too. But, man, I got to believe that Christian Kirk is going to reestablish himself as the alpha, but Trevor Lawrence didn't look good either.
No, he didn't. And Trevor Lawrence isn't really somebody I'm high on. In theory, they're drawing a damn tough matchup against the Browns, but the Cowboys made them look kind of silly last week.
Yeah. You know, I feel it takes some time for defenses to gel back up. I expect Cleveland to be at the top of the league by the end of the year. Same thing with the Jets too, really, because they looked like ass the other night.
Yes.
I forgot where we're at here.
All right. We got Ray saying he's hoping Kincaid bounces back tonight too. I think he will. In my mind, that passing offense, before all is said and done, is going to run through him. And then we have our awesome fan here, Kelsey, stopping by to say good luck to everybody. Rah, 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 go sports. Hey, she's got a team too. She's got a baseball team in the playoffs for a new fantasy player. She is kicking ass. We appreciate the hell out of you, Kels.
So Trey McBride's the next guy we'll talk about, tight end for the Cardinals. I really like him. He's like pretty much my favorite tight end rest of season and a great value in DFS this week. I know he left fantasy managers high and dry in week 1. What do you think about week 2?
I think, quite frankly, he is a top 3 option at the position this week and every week. He is my pick to finish as the tight end 1 this year, just because of how fantastic he looked last season when he actually got the opportunity to get those starters reps. He had a team high 9 targets last week. He should continue to see, we'll call it a similar amount. I mean, he's not going to be pushing double-digit targets every week, but I have a hard time seeing him not being up in that 6, 7, 8, 9 range week in and week out. And I think that's going to continue even as Marvin Harrison gets more comfortable and more involved in the offense. Just talked a minute ago how Laporta kind of had a down game against the Rams this past week, but that Rams defense has struggled against tight ends. They were, I think they were one of the top 5 worst defenses against the tight end position last year. And McBride scored. Yeah. McBride scored 10 plus points in both matchups against them last season. And once Zach Ertz got hurt, I believe starting from week 8 onward, he averaged 8 targets, 6 grabs, and 65 yards. And a good portion of that was even without Kyler Murray as the trigger man there. They ran out just a succession of dickheads whose names I can't even remember. And, when it comes to sports.
And Dobbs.
Yeah, Josh Dobbs. the Pastronaut. That is like the worst nickname ever. Oh my God. Like if you
You're
got
just jealous
NoHo
'cause-
Hank under center for you, like things have derailed.
You're just jealous because he's smarter than you and has like an engineer degree. That's it. That's all it
I
is.
don't give a shit about that at all. No, I mean, Trey McBride, you spent some serious draft capital on him, 4th round pick, 5th round pick, something like that. I think this is a damn good matchup. I think both Arizona and the Rams, even though the Rams, they're dealing with some injuries at skill position right now, they got Matty Stafford there and they can put up some points. And just to go off script a little bit, Kobe Parkinson, man, if you are hurting and you need a dart throw at the tight end position, yeah, I mean, he's out there in just a shit ton of leagues. And if you're somebody who missed out on the Isaiah Likely sweepstakes,
yep.
Like, dude,
Colby Parkinson had the 42 routes were the most of any other tight end. Andrews was second, and he was 8th in route participation. It's a thin touchdown dependent position, and I think that guy could give you something. I mean, do you remember Tyler Higbee in that offense a couple seasons ago?
I do.
Cleaned up.
I absolutely do.
The F up, and give me a guy that's tied to an elite offense and has elite usage rates any day.
And I also think too, like, I think this is an apt comparison to compare the tight end position in football to catcher in baseball. For those of you that play, fantasy in both, where it's, unless you've got one of the top few options, we'll call it top 5. I think tight end's a little bit deeper than catcher, but at the same time, it is very easy to find yourself in just a merry-go-round circle of suck if you don't have one of those better options where you're constantly churning the position and having to work the wire.
Yeah, McBride, I expect a big rebound this week. And of all the disappointing players in week 1, I'm least concerned about Trey McBride. I think he'll bounce back.
The 49ers last week ran all over the Jets. I mean, Jordan Mason looked like a damn all-pro. Well, now it's the Titans' turn. How do you think Tony Pollard is going to do this week?
Well, I think he can do pretty well because volume, right? I mean, he had 19 total touches. It was kind of very surprising. I thought it would be more evened out with him and Spears. I mean, he just dominated the backfield. He had 39 snaps compared to Tajay Spears' 29. And the two kind of split the passing game. Each of them saw about 4 targets. But Pollard got 82 yards on the ground, fell in the end zone, and got 12 yards through the air on those 4 targets and 3 receptions. And like you mentioned, 49ers, 180 rushing yards against the Jets. I don't think we saw that coming. They're at a very, very stout run defense last year. But, it's week 1. I think Pollard was running pretty well against the Bears. He averaged over 5 a carry, 5.1 a carry. So we'll see. The Jets I could be totally wrong, and the Jets could show up like last year and totally put the Titans in a negative game script, which then that's not really going to favor Pollard as more, I think, even with the even amount of targets. I think Tajay Spears is going to benefit more as a passing game back, but I think look for the Titans to pretty much lean on their running back committee there. They're stable. I think Pollard could total more than 100 yards from scrimmage. And as long as you're seeing this type of volume, he's very much a must start in fantasy football, regardless of the matchup. That's why I'm not too scared about throwing him out there against the Jets.
I guess my only concern would be that Jets defense not respecting Will Levis and his ability to beat them, with his arm.
That's true.
They did try and make some improvements there. They brought in Calvin Ridley. I've never really been high on him. And I did happen to see, I think it was earlier today or yesterday that they're expecting DeAndre Hopkins to get back closer to his normal workload. But at the same time, he's trying to play through like a torn MCL or some shit. So
that's rough.
It is, and I have a hard time envisioning him having any kind of sustained success dealing with that because
Now,
number one,
how
he's
you,
old. Number two, like that Jets secondary is nothing to toy with.
no, Reed and Sauce, very good corners.
Yes, they are.
Forgot what I was going to say. I lost it.
That's all right.
I'll just not going to try and remember it. So, all right. So that's some starts that we liked. We got a few sits here. First one's a wide receiver out of Green Bay. A lot of good ones there. That's the one we're going to talk about. It's Christian Watson. Indianapolis is coming to Green Bay. He was wide receiver 39 last week. You know, we could probably make this the shortest player spotlight ever and just say Malik Willis and go to the next guy, right? What do you think?
Pretty much. I've only got a couple bullet points here for him. The first one, Malik Willis is garbage. I mean, this dude, he might throw for 150 yards, but I imagine really any of that is going to be very close to the line of scrimmage, right? Now, he does have a decent arm, and Christian Watson is the deep threat on that offense, and the weakness of the Colts secondary is on the outside. So, you know, I mean, maybe Willis gets lucky and hits him on a go route, just chucks it down the field and he comes down with it, right? But within the range of outcomes that we expect for any game, this is very, very far towards the side of no, that ain't going to happen. He was wide receiver 39 last week. I wouldn't be surprised if he was wide receiver 93 this week and every week going forward until Jordan Love is back. He didn't cost you a lot at draft time. I think he was, you know, somewhere around, what was it, like in the 90s in terms of ADP.
Something like that sounds right.
You know, I'm benching his ass, quite frankly.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, until Jordan Love has returned, Christian Watson is a non-entity to me. The only receiver I would consider starting there would be Jaden Reed, just because they scheme ways to get him the ball in space. And typically that's done close to the line of scrimmage, behind the line, coming out of the backfield. He's kind of like that poor man's Deebo Samuel. He
is. But Kenny Moore is a tough slot matchup regardless.
Yes, he is. Kenny Moore is a damn good slot corner. Dubo says boo Packers, FTP, abso-freaking-lutely. So, yeah, that's Christian Watson. Yeah. And I'm down too on Josh Jacobs because the Colts defense has absolutely no reason whatsoever to fear Malik Willis.
None. Malik Willis, he's likely to make more plays with his legs than his arm. So they got to respect that a little bit. Set the edge right, keep him out of the from scrambling. But otherwise, it's going to be an ugly day in Green Bay there.
Oh, yeah, dude. If I play in the Colts secondary and I look up there and see Malik Willis, I might as well see Rodney Dangerfield because he's getting no respect.
No, I mean, he's one of the league's most or least accurate passers. He's a 52% career completion percentage. His passing success rate on it's not. His passing success rate there on Pro Football Focus is 30.5. That's very low. That's 20 to 30% lower than the norm. So ugly.
Fugly.
So we wanted to talk about another tight end, right?
Yeah, we are. This dude, Brock Bowers, comes into the league. His first game, leads the team in targets. However, there's a much tougher matchup this week going against the Baltimore Ravens. How do you see things going for him this week?
Absolutely not good. Not good at all. It's tough to bench him with the thin tight end position. I get it, but against the Ravens, it's not favorable at all. They just held Kelsey to 6.4 PPR points in that opening game last week, and they average about 9 PPR points to tight end at home since the beginning of last season allowed. Not good. And plus, perhaps you've heard of Ravens safety Kyle Hamilton. He was a first-team All-Pro last year. He had the 6th best PFF defensive grade and the 3rd best PFF coverage grade for safeties. not good. And, Roquan could cover him a little bit as well. Had a great defensive grade for linebackers. And before you say, oh, he's a linebacker, he can't cover. Bullshit. He's one of the best all-around linebackers in this league. He had the 9th best PFF coverage grade last year among linebackers. Hamilton and Roquan Smith, they're like very good and stuff. That's all you need to know. Plus, I think Davante Adams is not going to just see 6 targets again. I start that to see that, or I think that will go up. He's a career targets per game of just over 9. He's the type of player that has earned the right to complain about his usage, and the team will listen. I mean, Adams backed up Antonio Pierce 100% to get him the job. Yeah. And this is again where I'll bring up Colby Parkinson again. Grab him and drop and bench Bowers this week. It's not going to go
well. Don't drop him. And you're absolutely right about you're absolutely right about Davante Adams. The dude has averaged 10 targets a game over the past 3 years. And if he ain't seeing no love, guess what? There's going to be a change at quarterback. I understand that they brought in Minshew, but when you have a talent like that, you have got to feed him. Davante Adams is a target hog, 100% earned as well. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame receiver, period. Those are the type of dudes you feed. And if if Las Vegas has any designs on actually winning this game, they're going to have to feed him. I mean, you just feed Davante Adams. And I say that like partly self-interested because I've got him in a league, but at the same time, come on, this shit, we're not splitting the atom here. Get Adams the ball.
Right.
See, you like that little wordplay there too?
And they're going to be playing from behind. So okay. Oh, Bowers might see more targets. I just don't like the actual matchups, the individual matchups with a linebacker or one of the safeties. I mean, they got decent corners. Marlon Humphrey's there still, but Davante's just so they'll scheme to get him open slants and he'll get the ball and run. Bench Broncos.
Yeah, and I think too, that game last week, the Ravens Chiefs game, I got to imagine the Ravens that kind of left them with a bad taste in their mouth, and they're going to come out fired up. I think they'll win this game handily. You would say so. There's some opportunity for garbage time production, but you don't ever want to have to count on that.
No, we saw what the Ravens can do at home to a team. They destroyed the Detroit Lions. At home.
Why you got to bring up old shit, dude?
God, it was ugly.
I mean, they were the best team in the NFL last year, period.
All right.
The Ravens, not the
Another
Lions.
running back. Shut your frickin' mouth. Jesus. I want to watch a game. I want to move on. God damn it. All right, Javonte Williams, Denver running back. He had less carries and reps than Jaleel McLaughlin while having no receiving production. What you think about him? Sit his ass.
Yes, this week I am not running his ass out there. He is planted firmly on my bench. However, the arrow for him overall is pointing up. And the reason I say that is rookie running back Audric Estime got placed on IL. He's done. So now instead of having a 3-headed monster in the backfield, you got Javante and McLaughlin there. But look, he led the team in snaps last week, but he was outrushed in both carries and yards and out targeted by McLaughlin, but neither one was really particularly effective. Now you've got a rough matchup at home against the Steelers, and I think the Broncos are going to try and run the ball more this week, but I have doubts as to how successful they're going to be considering how Atlanta fared last week against this same defense. And Atlanta has superior talent both at the running back position and on their offensive line. And look, I have a hard time wrapping my head around why you would have Bo Nix throw the ball 42 times in his first game as a rookie when we were talking about a matchup against Seattle that was a 6-point game headed into the fourth quarter. So it's not like they were in comeback mode for all of the second half. I think it's going to be a long game for the Broncos. And I think it's going to be a long season there. I do think Javonte Williams does have some talent. He was a good running back in college. He's now a full year plus out from that knee injury, and that's generally where we want to be with running backs like this when they really start to perform, because to expect people to play as well as like Breece Hall did last season, or when Adrian Peterson come back, I think it was 2012 from ACL surgery in like 6 fucking months and then ran for 2,000 yards. Like that shit just doesn't happen. I mean, it did once, but like, that's it. You didn't have to pay a lot for Javonte Williams. Hopefully you're just using him as a flex option as opposed to your RB2. Now, maybe if you went 0 RB in your draft, then he is your RB2, but this is not a good week for him at all. You have to hold, and
it's a risk.
Look, I fully acknowledged last week when I said this ain't going to be a good week for Ramondre Stevenson. He's going to suck ass. And then he went out there and ran for 120 and found the end zone. And good old Low Boy let me hear it on that, because he's got him here in the podcast league, and he was one of the instruments of my demise in that matchup. But at the same time, no, I'm going back to the well. Javante, absolutely not.
Yeah. And going back on Ramondre, I don't think we expected the Bengals defense to look as bad as they did last week. So
no, you see Jamar Chase come out and said that they're still the team to beat in the AFC. Like, dude, what the hell is wrong with you? No, you're not. You just got your ass beat at home by New England, a New England that doesn't have Tom Brady or Bill Belichick. You got Gerard Mayo and fucking Jacoby Brissett. But what do I know?
Some interesting games we wanted to talk about, just a few here for fantasy purposes. First one's Bengals at Chiefs, usually a pretty high scoring affair. Bengals didn't look as good. Chiefs are looking good. Jesus. If the Ravens tried playing a bunch of man against the Chiefs last week and it failed spectacularly, and Cincinnati has done that the last couple times in their matchups. They've played cover one on over 30% of snaps, and last week versus cover one, Mahomes tore it up, 9 for 10 for 100 yards. Just amazing. This is going to be a tough one for the Bengals.
Yeah, it is. And Dubo makes a good point there in the chat that Burrow looks like he's nursing an injury. You've got T. Higgins who has his own injury. And you've got Jamar Chase, who, look, he missed the entire preseason. I understand he's a young dude. He's in his prime. He's fit and he's in shape, but there's a difference between being in shape and being in football shape. And it's going to take a minute. And you've already got a truncated preseason to begin with. The Chiefs, over the last several years, I heard this stat, during Zach Taylor's tenure there, they're like 1 in 10 in the first 2 weeks of the season since he's been there. They always get off to a slow start. I just don't think the Bengals can hang. I think this is going to be a Chiefs victory by a touchdown, possibly more, especially since it's in Kansas City. They have, and even more so once Hollywood Brown gets there, they've got so much speed. Like Rashee Rice, not a burner. Xavier Worthy, holy shit. Like that guy's fast.
Very fast.
Hollywood Brown is super damn fast. So I think it's going to be a long day for the Bengals. I think it'll be an entertaining game, but I cannot envision the Bengals coming out on top.
I just didn't see the Bengals try to push the ball down the field that much. There was watching some film, there was some open shots on Sunday, and Burrow seemed kind of, hesitant to let it rip. And I mean, who else on this offense right now that's healthy other than Jamar Chase scares you?
Nobody.
Not too much.
Sure shit ain't
Right.
Yosabash.
Exactly. So right now, Burrow's a volatile QB2.
He is. Where are we going next?
Bears Texans.
Sunday night game.
Bears Texans.
I think.
Yes. It is. The Bears, obviously, their offense was not good. They had one offensive play of 15 yards or more. It was the fewest in the league. Houston, their offense looked like it was clicking. Played well, had a pair of touchdowns, was 24-32. Again, like the Colts, they played man coverage on just 3% of passing plays last week, and they over 50% of the time. Last year, Stroud destroyed the Colts when they did that cover 3. I think it's going to be a long day for Bears fans. Again, the only thing I think that them is the Bears defense is pretty good. They've only allowed more than 2 touchdowns once since week 4 of last season. The highest QB that scored was last season. He was a QB 9. Jordan Love finished as a QB. Like, they're pretty damn good defensively, but it's going to be rough for Caleb Williams again.
I think so too, and you know, I know there's people out there who drafted him as their QB1, thinking, all right, he's got these awesome receivers there. You know, he's got 3 great receivers. He's got a competent tight end. He's going to run for, you know, maybe 400 yards this year, and you know, I'm going to ride him to a championship. Well, so far you'd be riding his ass to the basement, because
pump the brakes.
He is still a rookie quarterback, and the speed of the game between college and the NFL is massively different. You've also got Keenan Allen not practicing. I'm not super concerned about him. I mean, he's old as shit, and you know, it's kind of par for the course for somebody like Keenan Allen, who has a history of injuries, right? That Texans defense played a lot better last year than I think really anyone anticipated, more so in the second half of the year than in the beginning of the year. And they made some nice additions in the offseason. They get the game at home. I think this is going to be a lower scoring affair. I would probably take the under on this game. And one thing from last week I found interesting, pretty much all of Stephon Diggs' yards came after the catch, while the vast majority of the yards for Nico Collins were air yards.
Yeah. Yep. 49ers Vikings.
Hey, Dubo.
They played last year.
Yes, they did.
Yep. They played last year there. That was the game Trent Williams didn't play. Debo didn't play. Purdy, I think, suffered a concussion. He turned the ball over 3 times. It was ugly. And Brian Flores blitzed the shit out. I mean, he blitzes the shit out of everybody, right? But he really sent it at Purdy. I guess we'll see what happens with this. I mean, I think even with CMC out, Jordan Mason proved a capable back, and the 49ers line looked pretty good. I still like Aaron Jones to have a pretty decent game for fantasy this week. And Sam Darnold looked good, serviceable, accurate, on time. He can do that again and just be, you know, an average game manager. Minnesota can win some games this year.
They could. And obviously we know who Justin Jefferson is. He's arguably the best receiver in the NFL. And right now that Vikings offense is incomplete. They're still waiting for TJ Hawkinson to come back. You've got Jordan Addison, who's dealing with an ankle injury. Old man Aaron Jones he looked good, ran for 94 yards last week. I think he scored a touchdown as well. And Ty Chandler, like, he's got some nice ability coming out of the backfield. I think if Darnold can duplicate what he did last week, this week, the Vikings have a damn good shot. We'll have to see how likely that is. You know, the Niners and Kyle Shanahan should know him pretty well, considering he spent last season there as the backup, but at the same time, that works both ways. You know, Sam Darnold was there and understands, at least in theory from practice, where the strengths and weaknesses of that 49ers defense lie. I don't want to put too much stock into the game last week against the Jets, because the Jets have some talent, but Nathaniel Hackett is going to hold that offense back. And I think I would definitely trust O'Connell to run an offense much more than I would ever trust Hackett. And that's not like some great revelation here.
100%.
But at the same time, like the level of creativity that he can provide, I think is going to keep the Vikings in this game. I think it's going to be closer than folks are expecting. I'm not sure what is the line on this game. Let me see if I can find it. Right now, ESPN has it as San Francisco
-5.
Yeah, it's up to 5.5
-5
now. I think I would take the Vikings and the points in this one. I think it's probably going to be a field goal game.
Yeah.
And on the San Francisco side of the ball, obviously everybody's kind of wondering what's going to go on with CMC. Well, we'll know here at 11:30 Sunday morning. We talked earlier, there was a question there in the chat about Brandon Ayuk and kind of being in a pitch count. If Jordan Mason plays, I expect him to have another good game. The Niners offensive line isn't dominant. They tend to just put together a line that is good enough. So, Brian Flores could have a little bit of fun with that.
Heck yeah. Sweet. And Bucks at Colts real fast. Couple minutes.
You mean at Lions?
Win. Yeah, at Lions. Yeah. Goff is great. They're going to great. It's going to be a good game. The Bucks are hurt. I mean, what more can you really say? We're going to win.
They are.
That's all that matters.
Yep.
We're going to the Super Bowl. We're winning the effing Super Bowl. So
there we go. I am all in on the Lions offense this week.
Even though last week they're not in the division, the Rams weren't, the Bucks aren't in the division, in our division, but they're still in the NFC, and these games are.
Well, your internet just hates you today. Yes, these games are important,
Yeah.
Especially as we get closer towards the playoffs and we're looking at seeding and possible tiebreakers. And look, these first two games are rematches of two teams the Lions beat last year in the playoffs. So they're quality opponents. I look for Detroit to win this game. I think it'll be a fairly high scoring affair. This is going to be a game, where you're going to fire up your starters. I'm running Mike Evans out there. I'm running Chris Godwin out there. Obviously Jamo, who we talked about earlier. I think Sun God is going to rebound. I think Laporta is going to get more involved. Obviously Monty and Gibbs are always going to be out there for your teams. And this is going to be another opportunity for that Lions offensive line to announce their presence with authority and then establish dominance.
Yep. Okay. All right. Let's go watch football. It's already 7-7.
Is it?
So James Cook caught a receiving touchdown, and Achane caught a 5-yarder. So I guess hopefully that started him are in good. But we'll be back Sunday, Tinker Time, 12 noon Eastern. That's our unscripted show. We have fun, no notes. Take all your start-sit questions, any question you got really about trades or other roster management as well. So, and we like to do a DFS play too, a lineup for you guys to follow. So I'm hungry. I'm going to go watch Amazon Prime, I guess, and get the hell out of here. Stay stoned, everyone. Have a great night.
See you, folks.